Exactly what to say the magic words for influence and impact. 1. I'm not sure if it's for you, but one of the most common reasons I hear from people is that they are afraid of rejection if they present their idea, product, or service to others. As a result, I felt the best place to start would be with a set of magic words you can use to present something to just about anyone, at just about any time, without fear of rejection. I'm not sure if it's for you, but are the words in question. Let's have a look at how this straightforward framework works. I'm not sure if it's for you begins a statement, causing the listener's subconscious brain to hear. There's no pressure here. You naturally enhance their curiosity by implying that they might not be interested. They're curious about it, and this piqued interest draws them in. Furthermore, it activates an internal driver that informs them that a decision must be made. And the soft approach guarantees that this decision is taken in a relaxed and comfortable manner. The true magic, though, is provided by the final 3-letter word in this sequence. A word that should be avoided at all costs, in all conversations. But imagine getting a message from your boss that began, "You know you're a tremendously valuable member of the team. We appreciate everything you do here, but there are a few things that need to improve." What is the only aspect of the story that you recall? I'm guessing you'd pay the greatest attention to everything that comes after "but." The word "but" contradicts all that has come before it. So when you say to someone, "I'm not sure if that's for you, but," what your listener hears is, "You might want to look at this." "I'm not sure if it's for you, but," says the small voice inside your listener's head when you say, "I'm not sure if it's for you, but." Examples. Here are some examples to aid you in your daily activities. I'm not sure if it's for you, but do you know anyone who would be interested in? Enter your product or services results. I'm not sure if it's for you, but we have something planned for say, and you're free to come along. I'm not sure if this choice is right for you, but it's only available for 1 month. And I'd hate for you to lose out. This rejection-free strategy yields a straightforward result. One of 2 things happens. Either your audience leans in and asks for additional information because they are personally interested, or they say they will think about it in the worst-case situation. 2 minds that are open to new ideas. I am confident that over 900 persons in a room of 1,000 would raise their hands if asked whether they regarded themselves open-minded. This criterion is something that almost everyone in the country believes they meet. And it's easy to see why. When the alternative is viewed as closed-minded, others are almost certain to gravitate toward your idea. You can simply give yourself a good advantage in your interactions by understanding that people want to consider themselves as open-minded. Using the terms "how open-minded are you?" and following up with a scenario you want them to opt into when proposing a brand new idea to a stranger, friend, prospect, or team member allows you to organically lure individuals toward the same thing you're searching for their support with. This prelude increases your chances of their agreeing with you from 50-50 to 90-10%. Everyone aspires to be a free thinker. Examples. Here are some real-life examples of the words. How willing are you to give this a try as an alternative? Would you be willing to take a chance on this? How willing are you to consider boosting your monthly income? Would you be interested in seeing whether we could collaborate? Each of these alternatives makes it extremely difficult for the other person to dismiss your suggestion, and at the absolute least makes them feel forced to investigate it. You make it appear as though you're offering them a choice. Yet in reality, you're greatly favoring the one option you've given them. How open-minded are you about at least attempting it? To put it another way, begin by asking, how open-minded are you? While introducing a new concept. This will automatically draw people's attention to the cause you'd like them to support. Everyone aspires to be a free thinker. 3. What do you know about it? How often do you find yourself in a conversation that quickly devolves into an argument because you're conversing with someone who believes they know everything and wants to lecture you on their beliefs? You must know how to dominate a conversation to be able to influence others. One technique to reclaim power is to shift the other person's perspective from assurance to uncertainty. People usually try to create the state of ambiguity by explicitly criticizing the other person's opinion and sometimes even engaging in a debate. I'm sure you've been annoyed by someone's failure to understand what you're saying, and flustered by your inability to overcome their assumptions when trying to convey new ideas or concepts. This might happen frequently, and many people's I know best mentality can be tough to overcome. Many people's I know best mentality can be overcome by challenging the knowledge on which the other person's perspective is based. I'm sure you don't want people to argue with you. Thus, this situation could lead to you backing down or walking away frequently. However, in order for an opinion to be valid, it must be based on some type of knowledge. The easiest strategy to resolve this type of conflict is to question the knowledge on which the other person's opinion is based, rather than winning the argument. The goal is to make the other person recognize that their opinion was based on insufficient evidence, while yet allowing them to save face in the conversation. The preface's power, "What do you know about?" subtly challenges their knowledge base and forces them to provide the reference on which their argument is founded. This frequently leads to them recognizing that their strong opinion was unwarranted. Examples. The following are some real-world examples you might use. What do you know about us, our company, and how we operate? What do you know about what's happened since? Insert event. What do you know about how things function in this place? What do you know about? Insert product category advantages. These questions help the other person recognize that their point of view may not be true, and they can become much more open to change as a result. The worst that can happen is that you figure out exactly how they're making their case, and then use that information to counter it. Use terms like these to confidently confront others, and avoid fights that invariably end in losers because, regardless of who the loser is, you are unlikely to get your desired outcome. Everyone either wins or loses. Thor, what would it mean to you if? Motivation is a buzzword in conferences, but when I ask my audiences to define it, all I get are blank stares. It is the definition of this word that provides the fundamental foundation for understanding all aspects of negotiation, influence, and persuasion, and it is something you should go further into if you want to perform at your best. Simply put, knowing this word means you can get almost anyone to do almost anything. The term motivation is derived from the combination of two extremely popular nouns. The motive element of the name comes from the Latin word motivus, which means motive in English. Reason is a synonym for motive. The Asian component of the term comes from the word action, and when someone takes action, they are doing something or moving. This suggests that a reason to go or a reason to do is a very basic definition of motivation. Now consider this. Would it be fair to suggest that if the motivation was strong enough, you could persuade anyone to do anything? If you want people to do things they don't usually like to do, you must first find a compelling reason. Understanding what constitutes a sufficient justification necessitates an understanding of human motivation. One of two things motivates people: avoiding a loss or gaining a possible benefit. They either want to travel toward the light, the wonderful thing they seek, or they want to avoid the thing that could harm them. People will work more harder to prevent a prospective loss than to attain a potential gain, according to the real world. More importantly, the greater the contrast between where people don't want to be and where they want to be, the more likely they will move. When you combine the fact of motivation with the next point, you have a genuine sense of the context for this collection of magic words. The second factor to think about is whether people make decisions based on emotion or reasoning. The actual answer is both. The difference is that the decision is always taken for emotional reasons initially. People will work more harder to prevent a prospective loss than to acquire a potential gain, according to the real world. Before it ever makes logic, something has to feel right. I don't know why they don't do it. I'm sure you've thought as you walked away from a conversation, perplexed as to why the other person did not take your advice. It's only natural that they would do so. You're appealing to the wrong set of reasoning if you try to win the argument by stating that your suggestion makes sense. People make choices based on their gut feelings. The rest is simple if you can make it feel good. The foundation for this set of magic words is a prologue to a question that ties together those two difficult notions. When you introduce a future situation with the words, "How would you feel if?" you give the other person the opportunity to time travel to that point and picture the feelings that would be evoked. You can build a truth worth changing by choosing instances that elicit both happy and negative emotions. Others will be better prepared to accept your suggestions on how to help them succeed or avoid failure. The result is a conditional future-facing situation that they can see. Examples. For instance, consider the following. How would you feel if you were promoted as a result of this choice? What would it be like if you were passed over by your competitors? What if you could turn this situation around? What would you do if you were to lose all you own? What if you were debt-free, living in your dream home, and planned your next vacation by this time next year? Using the terms "how would you feel if" to create these conditional future scenarios gets individuals excited about their future and provides them an incentive to gravitate toward good news or away from bad news. Remember, the greater the contrast, the more likely that person will move. I've considered this. Did you know that every human decision is made at least twice? Before you ever make a decision in reality, you make it in your head first. In fact, in order for a decision to become a reality, you must first imagine yourself doing it. Have you ever been in a situation where you said, or even just mouthed to someone else, "I just couldn't see myself doing that"? It's a literal statement. If you can't picture yourself doing something, chances are you won't do it. People make decisions based on the images they see in their heads. So if you can implant images in their heads, you can use the results of those images to influence their decisions. Telling stories helps to create mental images in the minds of others. As children, we recall many a good story that began with the words, "Once upon a time." When we heard those words, we knew it was time to relax, enjoy the moment, and let our imaginations run wild while someone used words to paint a world for us to explore. Adults would be difficult to engage with that same powerful preface, so you'll need some magic words that produce the same picturesque result. When you hear the words "just imagine," your subconscious brain flips a switch and launches the image viewer, which cannot help but visualize the scenario you're imagining. You learned about away motivation and toward motivation in the previous section. You can use the same exact rules to finish off your just imagine scenarios to help motivate people to do what you want them to do. Examples. Following are some examples. Consider how things will be in 6 months once you've put this in place. Consider what your boss would say if you passed up this opportunity. Imagine the look on your children's faces when they see you accomplish this. Consider the impact this could have. Allowing the creative mind of another person to build your case for you will always save you guessing, and can create a more vivid reality than anything you could possibly describe. Allow them to do the grunt work. Imagine telling a team member or prospect, "Just imagine the smiles on your kids' faces when you tell them you've booked a trip to Disneyland." Or just imagine stepping up on stage and picking up that big incentive check. Or just imagine pulling into your brand new driveway. They will see a picture of that exact thing happening as you make those statements. Now that they've seen it, chances are their confidence in achieving it has skyrocketed. Imagine how much of a difference that will make for you and your company. Telling stories helps to create mental images in the minds of others. When you hear the phrase "just imagine," your brain visualizes the scenario you're imagining. 6. When would a good time be? This simple set of words assists us in overcoming one of the most difficult challenges you will face when attempting to get people to take a serious look at your product, service, or idea. One of the main reasons your ideas don't get heard is that others tell you they don't have time to think about them. When you use the preface, "when would be a good time to," you subconsciously lead the other person to believe that there will be a good time, and that no is not an option. This assumption recognizes that there will be a time when this will unquestionably fit into their schedule, and that it is simply a matter of confirming the specific time and date. This type of direct question prevents people from telling you that they don't have time, and, as a result, helps you avoid one of the most common objections. Examples. Here are some examples to get you started. When would be a good time for you to look into this further? When would be a good time to begin? When is the best time to speak up next? In all of these scenarios, please make certain that when you receive a response, you work to schedule the precise next point of contact in order to maintain control of the conversation. When you do follow up or speak with them again at the agreed upon time, please do not ask them what they thought about what you asked them to look at. This makes it simple for them to share bad news or express their concerns. Instead, replace that question with, "So, what do you like about it?" And watch them list the positive aspects instead. The phrase "when would be a good time to" leads the other person to believe that there will be a good time and that saying no is not an option. 7. I'm assuming you haven't been around. 2. Sticking with the theme of following up with people, I thought I'd share some words you can use in situations where you're hesitant to contact the other person because you believe they haven't done what you'd like them to do. You know those times when you sent over some information or they said they needed to consult with someone else, and now you need to contact them to take the next step. When you are concerned that someone has not done something, instead of asking them how it went, you might want to start the conversation in a different way, allowing the other person to save face while also preventing them from using any of the excuses you suspect they will use. Start the conversation. This gives them nowhere to go in the conversation except where you want them to go. They can't use the excuses because you were bold enough to start the conversation in a way that suggested they were about to use the exact excuse they had prepared by prefacing your question with, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to. Assume you're calling someone who said they needed to consult with their partner before making a decision. If you ask, I'm guessing you haven't spoken to your partner yet, they will no longer be able to use that excuse. They respond in one of two ways. They are proud that they fulfilled their promise, or they are embarrassed that they did not and make a new promise to make amends. Examples. Other examples include, I'm guessing you haven't had a chance to go over the documents yet. I'm guessing you haven't decided on a date yet. I'm guessing you still haven't made up your mind. By focusing on the negative, you can persuade people to focus on the positive or tell you how they plan to fix the problem they said they would fix. You create a scenario that completely disarms them by using the words you are afraid they will respond with in the opposite direction. If you say to someone, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to making a decision on this yet, and they say, no, you're right, we're still thinking about it, you can start negotiating. If, on the other hand, they say, no, we haven't, and we've made a decision, you can respond, great, when are we ready to get started? By pushing for the negative scenario, you get them to rise to the positive or tell you how they are going to fix the thing they said they were going to do. Because most people are people of their word and feel pretty bad when they are called out for it. 8 simple swaps. I'm going to provide 2 pieces of magic in one short section by using a simple technique. The psychology behind this technique, which involves converting an open question into a closed one, results in a guaranteed outcome or answer. It came to me first and foremost from trying to avoid a huge mistake I see so many people make when they reach the end of a sales presentation. Following many a presentation, the first question people ask is, do you have any questions? Asking this creates the subconscious suggestion that the other person should have questions. And if they don't, it makes them feel strange and possibly even stupid. This encourages them to leave the decision-making conversation and go away to think about it. You regain control with a simple change in wording. Replace the phrase, do you have any questions, with the improved, what questions do you have for me? A simple change in wording transforms this from out of your control to completely under your control. Replace the phrase, do you have any questions, with the improved, what questions do you have for me? When you assume a result, the easiest response for them to give is that they have no questions. What exactly does this imply? It means they've made a decision, and you're in a great position to ask for it. This change in wording usually results in you getting that response, or in the specific questions they need answered. In either case, you are much closer to a decision and avoid the dreaded, I need some time to think about it. That was the first simple lesson, but I promised 2 for 1 in this section. This next change is both simple and profound. It works whether spoken, written, or sent via text message. It works everywhere. It's best used when you want to easily obtain additional information from the other person. Consider the following scenario. You met someone and would like to speak with them later. Many people make the error of asking, "Can I have your phone number?" When you ask someone, "Can I have your?" you create permission-based resistance in the other person, which makes it more difficult to get what you want because a yes or no response is required. It may be construed as an invasion of privacy. Instead, asking the alternative question, "What's the best number to contact you at?" results in people effortlessly providing you with the information you requested. Both of these sets of magic words demonstrate how changing a few words can make a huge difference in the outcomes of your conversations. Changing a few words can make all the difference in the outcomes of your conversations. 9. You have 3 choices. People despise being manipulated and almost always want to feel as if they made the final decision. When someone is having difficulty deciding, using these words can help narrow their focus, reduce their options, and make it easier for them to choose. As far as I can tell, you have 3 options. You say, guiding the other person through the decision-making process while appearing impartial. You're simply presenting them with their options, but you now have the option of displaying them in a way that favors your preferred option. The rhythm of 3 makes it easy for the other person to listen, and by leaving your preferred choice until the end, you easily build the value of that option and load the choices so that your preferred outcome stands out as a clear favorite. We could certainly experiment with a variety of examples. In fact, we could probably think of dozens that are relevant to your life. But here's one to get you started. Example: assume you're looking for someone to join your company or organization, and they're undecided. Begin by making a statement that establishes the context for the real-life scenario. That statement could go something like this. So, you're currently working in a job that you despise. You're not enjoying it as much as you used to. The hours are long. It keeps you away from your family, and the pay is nowhere near what you'd like it to be. We've shown you a business opportunity that you like, but you're not sure what to do with it. You have 3 options, in my opinion. To begin, you could look for another job, work on your resume, send out applications, go through interviews, and go through the entire process in the hopes of finding another employer offering a similar package, and more than likely, expecting the same type of work for the same return. Second, you could do nothing. Stay exactly where you are now. Accept that your current circumstances are the best they can be, and just suck it up. Or third, you could give it a shot, working it alongside what you're already doing and seeing how far you get. Which of those 3 options will be the most convenient for you? Finishing with another set of magic words requires them to choose one of those options. What's going to be easier for you implies that the time-consuming new job option is out. Since staying put is no longer an option, the only option they have is the easy one, the one you want them to choose, the one you saved for last and stacked in your favor because you made it the path of least resistance. So start with, you have 3 options, and end with, what's going to be easier for you, and watch people pick the option that was previously difficult for them. 10 different types of people. As entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and business owners, we are frequently tasked with assisting people in making decisions. To me, the primary job description of all sales professionals is to be decision catalysts in the lives of their customers and prospects. But the job can also be described more simply as professional mind maker-upper. There are many people who do an excellent job of piquing people's interest in something, but it is the final moment of assisting people in making a decision that generates the action that drives results. That is the difficult part. Remove some of the options and create simple options to make it easier for people to choose. When the options are polarizing, making decisions becomes easier. Red or white wine, a beach or ski vacation, a rom-com or an action film. These are all simpler choices than the broader alternative. Your goal is to make a statement that presents a choice, and then let the other person choose. With the magic words, two types of people, asking people to decide for themselves who they are results in a near-instant decision. When someone hears the phrase, there are two types of people in this world, the little voice in their head immediately wonders which one they are, and they wait with bated breath to hear the options. Examples. Your job now is to present them with two options and make one of them stand out as the obvious choice. Here are a couple of examples. In this world, there are two types of people. Those who leave their personal financial success in the hands of their employers, and those who take full responsibility and build their own futures. In this world, there are two types of people. Those who judge something before they have even tried it, and those who are willing to try something and base their opinion on their own experience. In this world, there are two types of people. Those who resist change in favor of nostalgia, and those who embrace change and work to create a better future. You should be able to see the pattern in the examples and recognize how the options are clearly stacked in favor of the decision you want them to make. Something to consider as a reader is that there are two kinds of people in the world. Those who read books like this and do nothing, and those who put what they read into practice and see immediate results. 11. I'm sure you're a lot like me. This phrase is arguably one of my favorites because it can get almost anyone to agree to almost anything. It's even more effective in a conversation with someone you don't know than it is with someone you do. When speaking with a stranger, you want the discussion to flow smoothly, which implies it should take the path of least resistance. Expect people to agree with you fully, swiftly, and readily if you use this prelude before a situation you want people to believe is true. When you begin a remark with the magic words, "I bet you're a bit like me," the other person is more likely to agree with you if you are reasonable. This is a fantastic tool for gathering evidence to use in developing your subsequent recommendations. Many consumers, prospects, and people in general, in my experience, are not always totally honest. It will be more difficult for them to argue with you if you can get them to produce proof that supports your goal. You can use this combination of words to assist eliminate a lot of frequent objections by achieving complete agreement on something they might have tried to use as an excuse in the past. Examples. Assume you're worried about someone dismissing your concept because they don't have the time to devote to it. You may mention something like, at the start of the conversation, "I'm sure you're like me in that you love working hard now, because you know it will pay off later. I'm sure you're like me, and you'd rather work on something constructive than watch trashy TV in the evening. I'm sure you're like me, a busy person who is constantly juggling to get everything done." Simply include such kind of words into early talks, while maintaining eye contact with the other person, and watch them nod back. When they do, it shows they are aware that you are aware of their agreement with the notions. This makes it far more difficult for them to say they don't have time to perform what you've shown could provide them with the items they stated they want. The words of magic, "I'm sure you're a lot like me," typically leads to the other person agreeing with you. 12. In the event, our speech patterns, listening patterns, and, as a result, belief systems are all pre-programmed and hardwired into us from childhood onwards, to the point where the repetitive patterns of words we receive from childhood onwards create habits, systems within our belief systems, that we rely on to support our personal decision-making process. A basic pattern of speech that you may have heard a lot in your adolescence, and whose significance is often missed is an example of this. When we were children, adults made many conditional assertions to us, such as, "You will not be served dessert if you do not finish your dinner. If you don't work hard in school, you won't be able to get into the college or employment of your dreams. You'll be grounded for the weekend if you don't clean up your room." Examples. You probably trusted them when they made conditional claims like these to you. These comments have the ability to influence our thoughts and actions. As a result, constructing a scenario with the prefix if, and then adding a second scenario with the prefix then increases the likelihood that people will believe the outcome. If you decide to give it a shot, I guarantee you will not be disappointed. I am confident that if you put this in your stores, your consumers would enjoy it. I am convinced that if you give me a chance in the role, you will thank me afterwards. You can create guaranteed outcomes that are very tough not to believe by building these if and sandwiches. If you are willing to give it a shot, I am confident that you will see results as soon as the first day. 13. Don't worry. The impact of these next few simple words on those who are frightened, apprehensive, or showing indications of concern is what I like best about them. You'll know when you can see and feel someone's nervousness, when they're unsure of what to do next or even scared. His two magic words bring immediate relief, and you can usually see the recipient's face transform. When you say the words, "Don't worry," the tension in their bodies dissipates as they become more comfortable. Just two words that, when spoken confidently and calmly, produce the equivalent of the phrase "phew." That small sigh that comes out as people begin to feel in control. This is very effective in high-stress situations, such as when confronted with a panicked person, or simply to put someone at ease. When someone is undecided, maintain a calm demeanor and give them the impression that you have things under control and can guide them through the next step. Examples. Some examples are, don't be concerned. You're probably feeling jittery right now. Don't worry. I understand you're stuck for ideas right now. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to guide you through this process and assist you overcome any obstacles that arise along the road. Don't be concerned. Before I started, I felt just like you do right now. And look at me now. So, if you're worried about how you'll remember all these new word combinations, don't be. They'll appear in due time, and you'll have mastered it by the time you've progressed from one chat to the next. Don't worry is especially beneficial in high-stress situations, such as when presented with a terrified person. It puts people at ease. 14. The vast majority of individuals. These two words, which have only 10 letters, may be responsible for more of my negotiating success than any other strategy I've used in my businesses. The most significant impediment to progress is indecision, and these words can help people break free from procrastination quickly. There are a couple of things about people that are worth knowing, and these are two of the most important. First, people take comfort in the fact that others have made decisions similar to theirs before them, and that those decisions have worked out well. Consider the following scenario, which you may or may not have come across. On vacation, you see a group of kids on top of a cliff waiting to jump into the water below, but no one wants to be the first to do so. However, once one person is brave enough to go first and jumps into the water, lands with a splash, and does not sustain any injuries, but instead breaks the surface with a huge smile on their face, everyone seems to think it's a good idea. We all like to follow others and believe that there is safety in numbers, whether we are human beings, people, or you and I. Second, people need to be told what to do from time to time, but doing so without their consent can come across as rude. What I think you should do is, I'm sure you've wanted to say it a few times. The power of the magic words most people is derived from these two factors. When you're faced with a situation where you want to say, look, what I think you should do is this, but you can't because it's obnoxious, simply state what most people would do in this situation and watch how everything changes. When you tell people what most people would do, their subconscious brain thinks to itself, aha, I'm most people, so if that's what most people would do, then maybe that's what I should do too. When you tell people what the majority of people would do, their brain says, I'm the majority, so maybe that's what I should do as well. Examples. There are countless examples to choose from. The majority of people do what I'm doing today, which is filling out forms. After that, you'll get your welcome package and we'll schedule a launch with you. Most people start by placing a small order, committing to a few of the best products, seeing how they work out in their daily routines, and then deciding what to do next. Most people in your situation would jump at this chance because there is almost no risk. Try debating each of these points to see how much you can use them to support your argument. In fact, most people use the phrase most people in their daily conversations, And the majority of those people notice an immediate increase in their influence. The majority of people use the phrase most people in their daily conversations. And the majority of them notice an immediate benefit. 15. Rejoice. Now is the time for us to discuss how you can turn around all of that negative energy, whether it comes from others on your team, prospects, or just other people in your life. Using a technique known as labeling, you can turn a negative into a positive with these words. When you put a label on something, it's nearly impossible for the other person in the conversation to remove it. The ability to change the direction of the conversation with little effort and move it toward a more positive outcome is created by acceptance of this new label. The use of the magic words, "The good news is," as a preface to your chosen point ensures that the recipient must accept the label you've attached. This upbeat perspective can help you deal with negative situations in your life. Avoid self-defeating blame and pity conversations, and begin to build in a new direction. Look, the good news is that we have dozens of people who were in exactly the same situation when they first started, and they have gone on to be successful, and they are here to support you, too. You can say to someone who is doubting their ability to do something, "The good news is that we have comprehensive training you can complete at your own pace to give you all the skills you need to make this business a success." You could say if they are unsure whether they have the skills required to make the business work. What if someone says they want more success, but is resistant to change? The good news is that you already know what you're doing isn't working. So what's the harm in trying something different? You might say, "The good news is a great way to get people to look forward and get rid of any negative energy from the conversation." The good news is, you begin by saying, causes people to look forward with optimism and zaps any negative energy from the discussion. When confronted with people who offer excuses or reasons for why they are not ready to move forward, you can use the same principle with 2 additional words. When someone makes an excuse for you, they expect you to argue back. Say, "That's great," the next time someone tells you why they don't want to do something. When someone says, "I couldn't do it because of this," respond, "That's great. You've just discovered another way that doesn't work," and observe how they react. You've influenced their viewpoint. Some of them may think you've gone insane, but you probably didn't want those people in your life to begin with. The good news is, and that's great, you can quickly shift the balance in people's minds and allow them to question themselves toward a better outcome and behavior by adding more positivity to situations with "the good news is," and that's great. The good news is, and that's great, you can quickly shift the balance in people's minds by bringing more positivity to situations. 16. The next steps. Let's look at a situation that occurs frequently in business discussions. You've created an opportunity, landed a hot prospect, gone out, demonstrated how you can help them, and walked them through your entire presentation, and they've nodded and smiled the entire time. You want them to commit, but after all of this relationship building and knowledge sharing, the conversation comes to a halt, with no one taking the lead in making the final decision. This occurs far too frequently, and it is caused by people's fear of being perceived as pushy or controlling, which causes them to abandon the task at hand. It's all too easy to delegate decision-making to others in the hopes that they will make the best decision possible. However, without your assistance, many people will make no decision at all, and everyone will suffer as a result. It is your responsibility to lead these consultative discussions, and after the necessary information has been shared, it is your responsibility to bring the conversation to a close, because you need to inform them of what will happen next. The magic words you'll need are, "The next thing that happens is," says the narrator. This is a great way to connect all of the information they'll need to make a decision, as well as the information you gave them when you presented to them, and bring them all the way to the finish line. To put it another way, you set up a scene. You don't ask what they want to do. Instead, you tell them what will happen next. What we'll do next is take a few moments to fill out some of your personal information and get everything set up so you can get everything as soon as possible. Then we'll schedule another meeting to get started, and I'll walk you through each step to ensure that you achieve your objectives and are aware of all the resources available to you. What is the best address for you to use for registering your details? It is your responsibility to lead the discussion, and after the required information has been shared, it is your responsibility to bring it to a close. The key to getting a quick response and a positive outcome is to end this procedure with a question that is simple to answer. You can see how, simply by asking them that simple question at the end. The second they react with their address, it implies they are interested in moving further with your proposal. To bring your scenario to a close, you might pose any form of inquiry. The easier it is to answer the question, the easier it is to make a decision. When you have a brief and positive what happens next dialogue, you will be able to conclude significantly more conversations at the first meeting and accomplish considerably more in the moments you have with individuals. The simpler the question, the easier it is to make a judgment. 17. What makes you say something like that? Objections are a typical occurrence in daily life, in both our personal and professional lives. We are confronted with indecision from others, and we frequently find ourselves having to accept someone else's idea. Because these discussions might become heated, most people are willing to give up their ambition in exchange for a simpler life. To overcome an objection, you must first comprehend the nature of the objection. It's always possible that an objection is merely a substitute for expressing no thank you or a manner of deferring a decision until a later date. However, there is always a shift in control of the conversation, and the moment the other person raises an issue, the other person seizes authority, and you are obligated to comply with their wants. Maintaining control in a conversation is crucial to negotiating success, and the person in control is always the one who asks the questions. By considering every criticism as a question, you may rapidly regain control of the debate by responding with a question of your own. Examples. Common objections in a corporate setting include: I don't have the time. It's not the right time. I want to go shopping. I don't have the funds right now. Before I make a decision, I need to chat with someone else. When such an objection is presented, the worst thing you can do is answer with your counter-argument and statements that refute their existing viewpoint. Rather, you may effectively address each of these frequent concerns by becoming curious about them and asking a question in the opposite direction. Maintaining control in a conversation is crucial to negotiating success, and the person in control is always the one who asks the questions. Of course, you might come up with your own set of questions to counter each objection you see. You can also rely on the one set of magic words that has proven to be effective in millions of similar situations. How did you come to that conclusion? Examples. Listed below are a few examples. I need to speak with someone else before I make a choice on this. The customer says, what makes you say that? You could ask, really, I don't have all the money right now. The customer says, what makes you say that? You could ask, I'm just not sure I've got the time to fit this in around what I'm doing right now. The consumer admits, what makes you say that? You could ask. The other person is now forced to respond and fill in the gaps in their prior remark as a result of the control transfer. It keeps you from making snap judgments or getting into a fight, and it allows you to have a deeper understanding of their point of view before suggesting a next thought or action. What you're asking them to do is provide a thorough explanation. What makes you say that? Means they must now take responsibility for their words and clarify what they really mean. After you've had this stated properly, you'll be able to assist them in making their decision, or at the very least gain a better understanding of why they won't be able to make it at this time. 18. Before you make up your mind, consider the following. It's nearly tough to persuade someone to change their mind from no to yes. You must first move someone to a position of maybe before you can get them to full agreement. When you find yourself in a situation where the other person is leaning away from your concept, use another set of magic words to nudge them back in your direction before you make a decision. Examples. Here are some examples of how you can keep the conversation going using these words. Let's be sure we've looked at all the data before making a decision. Why don't we go over the details one more time before you make your decision so you know exactly what you're saying no to? Wouldn't it make sense to talk to a few more individuals about the difference this could make for you and your family before you make your decision? These simple examples can often persuade people to change their minds and allow the discussion to continue by forcing them to consider the situation from a different angle. This shift in perspective allows you to contribute additional information to support your point of view, and so boost your influence over their decision. 19. Will you help me if I'm unable? Have you ever been in a situation where a prospect or customer objects, citing reasons why they are unable to perform what you want? Perhaps they expect you to depart from your usual terms or to provide a better pricing. People create excuses for not being able to attend parties or celebrations in our personal lives, which is the same thing. These scenarios are caused by the other person imposing an external condition that prevents them from pursuing your proposal. They've disengaged from the process and delegated responsibility to forces outside their control. In these cases, you have the ability to pinpoint the problem and break through the barrier by asking a compelling question that cuts through their reasoning. If I can, then will you? Is a question structure that does this. Assume you're planning a night out with a friend on Friday. Your friend claims that they won't be able to join you because their car is being repaired, and the buses aren't that frequent. If I can pick you up and drop you off at home, will you be ready for 7 o'clock? Is a question that might be used to eliminate this obstacle. When someone asks you to lower your pricing in response to a competitive offer, the same logic can be applied. Would you be willing to make an order with me today if I can match that pricing for you? You are not compelled to comply with the condition in each of these instances, but you do have power over what happens next. You might get more reasons and honesty from the other person, which stops you from moving further, or you might get their agreement. You may now provide your greatest alternative to them once they've agreed to the condition, and you'll be far more likely to get your desired result. In these cases, you have the ability to break down the barrier by asking a compelling question that cuts through the other person's argument. 20. That's enough. This word refers to situations where you need people to make decisions about the quantity or quality of service you provide. It's all about making it a lot simpler for the other person to achieve a little more than they could have otherwise. Customers debate over the number of particular things they should purchase on numerous occasions in retail sales. For example, you probably can relate. Perhaps you've wondered how many apples to buy at the supermarket. You have the power to influence the actions of others in any set of circumstances when you participate in the decision-making process. Consumers enjoy being guided through the proper course of action, and supporting others in making decisions is a skill that will propel you to greater heights. Returning to the grocery store scenario, suppose you're choosing between 4 and 8 apples. If you were being served in that transaction and asked, would 8 apples be enough for you? You'd say yes, and the decision would be made. When it comes to company, one of the most important goals is to have customers return back for more. Assuring that customers have the right amounts of your products to form a habit of using them can be a crucial part of that. I'm sure you've enjoyed using travel-sized toiletries, but never bought them. But when you get a 3-for-2 deal, this is often your new favorite brand. I've worked with a company whose main product is a drinking gel that they want people to buy repeatedly. In face-to-face conversations with customers, the question of how many bottles they should buy frequently occurs, and the answer usually falls between 2 and 3. Instead of a lengthy study of the advantages of 3 bottles versus 2, ask yourself, would 3 bottles be enough for you? You have the power to affect the actions of others in every set of circumstances in which you participate in the decision-making process. The addressee is compelled to respond to the direct query, and yes becomes the easiest option. When applied effectively in instances when an impressionable person must select between 2 possibilities, you will nearly always get them to choose the larger one. I'm sure you can come up with a number of similar circumstances in your own organization. You should expect a 50/50 response if you give someone the option of choosing between two numbers. However, if you ask a direct query about solely the larger option and the magic, you'll get a different answer. The word enough changes the chances in your favor significantly. Including this principle in all business talks can have a significant impact on your outcomes. Consider what would happen if each transaction included an additional unit. Including this principle in all business talks can have a significant impact on your outcomes. Consider how much more valuable each transaction would be if it included an additional unit. 21. But there's still one more thing. It's common to hear about the necessity of upsell in sales training programs, encouraging your customer to buy extra at the time of purchase. A downsell, which was discussed in the preceding section, is a less typical method of accomplishing this. If you fail to fulfill your primary goal in a conversation, a downsell entails focusing on a less important goal. A downsell may be your initial trial order if you were seeking for a substantial long-term contract. Perhaps you wanted someone to join your company as a partner. A downsell could be a consumer trial of your items. On your way out of a conversation, you can use this set of magic words to generate that opportunity. Rather than departing empty-handed, you employ these words to make a second try. When I was a kid, I first learned about this strategy while watching crime dramas on TV with my grandparents. These shows exposed me to possibly the best negotiator I've ever encountered, television detective Columbo, who was known for his exact use of language. He'd question his suspect, go through the motions of getting as much information as he could, and then leave. Columbo would return to the suspect and remark, "Oh, just one more thing," with his finger pointing upward, just when the suspect thought they had gotten away with it. When the suspect's guard was down, he could ask his next question and get the crucial information he needed, the clue that would bring him to the crime scene. Using the magic words, just one more thing, keeps the conversation going and prevents you from walking away empty-handed. This lesson can be applied to a variety of life situations. One of them is depicted below. You meet with someone to present your ideas and seek their support. They like you and your ideas, but they aren't quite convinced, and the meeting is coming to an end. You express your gratitude for their time, collect your belongings, and leave. Just one more thing, you may say in a Columbo-like manner. You introduce a simple notion, something that is incredibly easy for them to attempt, and you pull them into your universe with a considerably smaller decision than you had previously asked for. Examples. You may include things like, in a Columbo moment, requesting a product sample, requesting a minimal order commitment, organizing an event for them, introducing them to a person you believe they should be acquainted with. You're requesting that they assist you with something, creating scarcity in your initial offer by asking them a question. These moments, together with the magic words, just one more item, keep the conversation going and assist you avoid walking away empty-handed. 22. A personal recommendation. Without the help of others, success in life and business is rare. If you can do things that will allow others to assist you in achieving your goals, your chances of success will skyrocket. I'm sure you've had many situations where you wished someone else would do something to make your life easier, open a door for you, or supply you with the information you require to accomplish the development you desire. Could you perhaps do me a favor as we near the finish of this audio? Consider how you'd react if I asked you, could you do me a favor? I'm sure you thought you'd be willing to help me out in that single second. This is a simple but effective set of magic words that may be used to persuade someone to agree to do almost anything before they ever realize what it is. The worst conceivable response to a favor request is still a conditional yes, such as depends what it is. Consider what you could ask someone to do in exchange for a favor. I'm sure the hundreds of items you could add to your list of desires, as well as the individuals who could assist you with them, have left your mind boggled. In this audio, I'd want to show how a simple change of words may accomplish a great deal. The topic of referrals can be used to investigate the use of these magic words. Growing a new customer base from your existing happy consumers is a great way to build your business, but it's rarely done. There are three key reasons, in my opinion, why people do not seek references from others. 1. They are uninterested and indolent. 2. They are unsure when it is appropriate to inquire. 3. They are unsure about how to approach the situation. Let's look at the first possibility. People who do not study books, attend training, or take their personal growth seriously are the ones who are most affected. This definitely does not apply to you. Thus, I suppose the other two reasons should be considered. When it comes to asking for a reference, there are literally dozens of possibilities. If you think about all of the wonderful times, you'll notice that they all have one thing in common. The other person is content. When individuals are grateful for anything you've done for them, they almost always say thank you. These phrases might easily make you feel proud of yourself. In addition to these emotions, it's critical that you comprehend the most basic reason why people express gratitude. A feeling of indebtedness motivates a person to express thanks. Simply put, individuals believe they owe you something when they say thank you. When someone feels obliged to you, it's the greatest time to ask for assistance. Simply put, the next time your customer or prospect says thank you, take it as a signal to ask for more. Let's figure out how to ask now that you've got the timing. So they've said thank you, which gives you the opportunity to pose your first question. Couldn't you do me a favor? This basic query nearly often results in an affirmative response, allowing you to proceed with the rest of your request immediately. You wouldn't chance to know. You can follow up with, this makes individuals want to prove you wrong by posing a challenge to them. It's only one person, says the narrator. Only one, because it's logical and appears to be a straightforward request. Plus, they're more likely to remember someone by name. Someone who looks and acts just like you. This narrows the alternatives and provides you with more of the correct prospects, as well as paying a covert compliment. It would be advantageous if, then focus on the exact benefit or great experience they just expressed gratitude for. Then, please, don't say anything. People express gratitude when they believe they owe you something. This is the ideal time to seek assistance. When they think of someone, you need to know what to do next. When they have thought of someone, you will most likely notice it in their body language. Don't worry, say at this point, I'm not looking for their contact information right now. But who are you thinking of? This relieves the pressure, but allows them to remember only the last part of the sentence. Find out when they're next likely to see the person they had in mind. You couldn't possibly do me any more favors, could you? In other words, they said yes the first time. Could you tell Steve about your experience doing business with me the next time you see him and see if he's open to taking a phone call from me to see if I can help him in the same way I helped you? Your prospect is almost certainly going to agree. Would it be okay if I called you next week to see how the conversation with Steve went? They will most likely be agreeable once more. You will then call when you promised and inquire. I'm guessing you didn't get around to speaking with Steve. As a person of their word, they will either proudly state that they have spoken to Steve, or they will be embarrassed and explain how they will continue the introduction. The magic in this, the crazy irony, is that you slow down the process while speeding up the outcome, and you end up having conversations with people who anticipate your call, look forward to hearing from you, and are grateful. It gives you qualified future customers with third-party experience with your offerings, as well as permission to contact them. I'd rather have that than a name and a number any day of the week. It is now time to do yourself a favor and consider all the things you can ask of others in order to gain their commitment before they even know what that thing is. 23. Simply out of curiosity. One objection that people raise in response to ideas has always irritated me. I just need some time to think about it, says this objection. I'm not suggesting that people rush into decisions. It's just that my experience has taught me that this statement almost never indicates that they are leaving to conduct a thorough analysis of their decision. They are simply deferring their decision to another day. Consider that you have spent time responding to an inquiry, visiting a prospect, getting to know them, and listening to their challenges. You then provide them with a detailed set of recommendations on how you can assist them in achieving their goals or overcoming their challenges. And in return, they provide this vague response that aids no one in the discussion in reaching a conclusion. My main concern is that it is simply not fair. If you have delivered your part correctly, I believe the other person owes you a little more transparency regarding their thoughts. When I receive this response, I often find myself wanting to yell. What do you want to think about? I knew that if they could open up to me about their feelings, I could probably help. The issue was that I knew I couldn't really ask, that because it would come across as rude or obnoxious. Instead, I hear people in my situation say things like, "It's okay, no pressure, we'll be ready when you are ready," and then walk away from the opportunity, hoping that time will heal it. Because of this frustration, I've had to devise a method of eliciting genuine responses from people by asking rude, obnoxious questions without sounding rude or obnoxious. What I want from their response is not a guarantee of a commitment, but rather honesty in the discussion so that we both understand the true obstacles. I discovered that by prefacing one of these direct questions with a specific set of magic words, I could transform rude and obnoxious into soft and fluffy. By identifying a reason for my direct question and obtaining permission to ask it, I immediately gained control of the conversation. Just out of curiosity are the words I use to do this, and they can be used as the perfect preface to many a direct question. Examples. Among the examples are, just out of curiosity, what exactly do you need some time to think about? Just curious, what would have to happen for you to make a decision on this? Just curious, what is it that is preventing you from moving forward with this right now? In each of these cases, it is critical that you remain silent following your question. Silence becomes your ally. You must not prejudge their response or insert words into their mouth. They are now aware that they must provide you with a proper response, and one of two things will occur. To become a professional mind maker upper, you must first ask big, brave questions. The first thing that comes to mind is that perhaps 12 seconds have passed. This will feel like it's been 3 weeks. They will then respond with a genuine, honest response, and you can work with that transparency. The second possibility is that time passes more slowly. This is excellent news. Bite your tongue, sit with your hands on your hips, and do nothing. Allow time to pass. During this extended pause, they look for an excuse and frequently realize they don't have one. They then say things like, "You know what? You're right. There's nothing to think about, or there's nothing that needs to happen, or there's nothing that can stop me." The fact that you were willing to ask them the question they were not yet willing to ask themselves empowers them to make the decision you both know was right for them in the first place. Asking big, brave questions is exactly what you need to do to go from being like everyone else to becoming a professional mind changer. Last thoughts. With all of these words to mull over, I'm sure you've realized that finding the right words at the right time can make all the difference. There is one more thing I'd like to share with you, and it isn't necessarily a magic word. When you share your knowledge and wisdom with others, it can make a huge and profound difference in your level of success. One common concern I hear from people is the fear of being caught off guard when it comes to product knowledge about their company and industry, as well as the need to have fantastic answers for every question. I met one of the most successful salespeople I've ever met about a decade ago. I was talking to him about success at the time. Roger was present in the room when the first text message was created, and he had a long and illustrious career in the telecommunications industry. I remember talking to him about the transition of telephones from analog to digital, and he told me that he used to get questions from his customers about how this new technology worked all the time. The question prompted him to try to explain technological advancements and dazzle them with his vast knowledge, only to be met with blank stares. Roger had one of those aha moments when he realized he was doing everything wrong. He believed it was his responsibility to explain how this stuff worked. He quickly realized that his responsibility was not to provide them with the answer, but rather to provide them with an answer. So he changed the way he answered the question. From then on, whenever a customer asked him, "So, how does all this stuff work?" he would respond, "It works great." That response delighted his customers 9 times out of 10. Consider how that might work for you. Could you simply say, "Great," when a customer or prospect inquires about how all of this works? Could you tell them, "Good ones," when they ask what kind of results they can expect from this? Instead of confusing them with facts, give them an answer that is simple, effortless, positive, and uplifting, and that comes back at them in the opposite direction. Watch how it stuns people into a positive decision and empowers them to move forward. Give a simple, effortless, positive, and uplifting response, and watch how it stuns people into making a positive decision. Everything you've learned in this audio is simple, easy to implement, and, most importantly, effective. What it does not do, however, is work with everyone all of the time. It simply works with the majority of people the majority of the time. There's a chance that what you're doing now is helping some of the people some of the time. So don't try it once and then tell me it didn't work. Experiment with it several times until it becomes second nature. Bring it into everyday language, and the cumulative effect of those tiny improvements and subtle changes in language, the ability to know exactly what to say, and the insertion of a few magic words could be just the tonic that takes your ambition, dedication, and drive with a few skills sprinkled on, and moves you from counting conversations to making conversations count. I wish you all the success for which you are willing to work. Please relax and enjoy the journey.